Hello, my beautiful friend. Hi, so good to have you. So this is my friend, Miss Jessica, and I will have her introduce herself to you beautiful ladies before we talk and chat for a bit.
Okay.
Tell them about yourself.
So, I'm Jessica Hartman. My husband and I came here about 4 years ago. In September 2014, we moved from San Diego. And my husband, Jason, is the communications pastor. And we've been married for 15 years. We have 2 children, Emma, who's 10, and Micah, who will be turning 9 January 1st. He's a year's baby.
Yeah.
And I work in Milwaukee in the financial industry. And I just love helping to encourage people in their gifting, in their calling, whether that's in the church setting or whether that's in full-time marketplace ministry. And so I'm excited to be here with you today.
Yes.
I love Diane.
And I love you, sweet
and
friend.
the group and all that you guys do. So it's fun to be part of this.
Good. Thank you for taking the time. So as I shared with you, we are doing a series all about our life verse. Some of the ladies have never heard of that. They've never had a life verse before. So we are researching and encouraging and trying to facilitate picking that for some of the gals and sharing stories of beautiful ladies who have a life verse and who have had one for quite some time. And then we're also studying and talking about having a word for the year. 2019 is coming up. So we'll chat about those 2 things today.
Okay.
Firstly, do you have a life verse?
I do.
Yay, of course.
I do.
Good.
Yes.
And how did that come to pass? Tell us a little bit about the history behind that.
You know, I have had this for a while.
Yeah.
I didn't get it until I was a little bit older.
Yeah.
Young by today's standards. I was like 18.
Right.
But it wasn't something I had as a child per
Yeah.
se. And I had just been in a season, I was saved as a young girl and called actually into ministry at the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite know what that looked like. And so I just, I had this heart and this passion. So fast forward, I'm 18 and am in a season of coming back to the Lord. So I had kind of walked away and I'm in a season of rededicating my life. And that was not met without trial.
Sure.
And so here I came back and had this passion and God's reigniting this calling. And all of a sudden I'm just met with resistance. And I'm like, what's happening? I'm telling all these people like how excited, life is. And I am, and what God's speaking.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting season, but it was a season where God showed me how to dig deep. And that's something that has carried me throughout every season of my life.
Yeah.
And he literally took me to these verses one night. It was a difficult, time and lots of things happening at that age. And the Lord just showed me these verses. And
Beautiful.
so
share them with us.
it is, it's the whole Psalm 37, I will say, is very powerful, but I will not take the time to read it all right now. So there's a grouping of verses that I love, and it is Psalm 37, 3 through 8. I'm just going to read them quickly.
Yeah, please do.
And this is the Passion Translation. Keep trusting in the Lord and do what is right in his eyes. Fix your heart on the promises of God, and you will be secure, feasting on his faithfulness. And I think that's so important because sometimes we forget that he's the one who's faithful, and there are other people who aren't, but it doesn't matter. We just always get to fix our eyes on him and trust in that, feasting on his faithfulness.
Love it.
Verse 4, make God the utmost delight and pleasure of your life, and he will provide for you what you desire the most. Another version is take delight in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart.
Yeah.
But I love how this version says to make him your delight.
Yeah, read that part again.
Make God the utmost delight and pleasure of your life.
Yeah.
And he will provide for you what you desire the most.
Right.
So when we put that in him and our expectation in him, and that's how it came to me in that season. I had my expectations in other people to fulfill and be the answer to, hey, I feel called to do this. Now help me walk in it. Instead of God going to God and saying, wow, God, I love this. I'm passionate about this. And so my expectations got inverted, and therefore I was open to be offended.
Yeah.
Because I was looking to somebody else to fill that.
Sure.
Instead of him. And so when I saw this, he gave me that revelation, and I just continually have to realign back to, you're my delight, God. It doesn't matter what's going on around me.
Yeah.
I'm still going to be delighting in him. And then I can trust in his faithfulness. He always comes through. It may not look like what I thought, but it doesn't matter, because he knows what my heart is, and he's going to work out those desires in my heart.
Okay, so can I just say that I needed to hear this today? This is so perfect. I'm sitting here like, oh, yeah, God. Oh, yeah, yeah, this is for me. This is for me. Stop the tape. This is just for me.
So good. It's
It
such a
is so
powerful
good.
scripture.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, keep going.
Okay, so then in verse 5, it gets better. Verse 5, give God the right to direct your life. As you trust him along the way, you'll find he pulled it off perfectly. And I love that, because sometimes we don't give God the permission.
Yeah.
You know, in another version it says trust in him, he'll do this.
Yeah.
But I love how it says give God the right, because we do have free will.
Yeah.
And he gives us that, and that's our gift.
Sure.
And so sometimes we try to take it by our hands.
Yeah.
And so then we end up directing, and then it's like he didn't pull it. We're trying to pull it off.
Yeah.
Instead of going back to him and going, I trust that you're going to pull this off perfectly.
Yeah.
Can't see it, but I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and then verse 6, he will, this one is so good too. I'll say more in a minute. He will appear as your righteousness. So he will appear. He will be your righteousness. As sure as the dawning of a new day, he will manifest as your justice. And as sure as he will manifest as your justice, as sure and strong as the noonday sun. And in another version, I think it's New King James, it says he will make your righteousness shine like the noonday sun. And I think a lot of times as people, women, you know, we can easily get out of alignment with his plan and his purpose, because maybe somebody else says something about us, or maybe there's some situation going on and we're being misrepresented in the natural.
Yeah.
And I just love that, because it's kind of like, you just know it just doesn't even matter.
Right.
You know, because you've got your heart aligned, and he is going to make your righteousness known.
Yeah.
We don't have to fight our own battles.
Yeah.
You know, we just show up and
That
we
is the
rest in him.
best. That is so freeing.
It is.
Because fighting our own battles is exhausting if that's what we choose to stay in.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in the circles, you know, and so that again has just been something that I have always come back to. It was revealed to me in that challenging season, but then in multiple seasons throughout that time, and just different growth areas that God was starting to take you into a season of growth.
Yeah.
Again, sometimes, you know, you need that friction to grow.
Right.
And instead of looking at somebody else and going, oh, I have to defend myself, I didn't mean that, or they need to know what, you don't. You just go, nope, God, I'm going to say this verse back to you. It's a promise. You will make my righteousness shine like the noonday sun. You will manifest your justice. It's going to come. I don't know when. I don't have to know when. I don't have to control it. I just keep walking on that path. So that was such a powerful verse to pray and to declare back to God. So. And then here, it gets better.
We could be here for hours.
I know. All right.
I love it. No, it's good. It's good.
This is so powerful. And I'll say, because there's power in rest. I think that's one of the strongest things you can do is to rest.
Yeah.
Because it is trust. It's just to be peaceful. So anyway, verse 7. Quiet your heart in his presence and pray. Keep hope alive as you long for God to come through for you. And don't think for a moment that the wicked in their prosperity are better off than you. And then it goes into verse 8. Stay away from anger and revenge. Keep envy far from you, for it only leads you into lies. And I'm going to go to verse 9.
It's okay. Keep going.
For one day the wicked will be destroyed.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we we may look at a person or something that's holding us, and that is
Situation.
just the enemy against us.
Yeah.
The enemy against us will be destroyed.
Right.
Whatever the enemy's using to be against us, but that will be destroyed. And this is the second part is so powerful. But those who trust in the Lord will live safe and sound with blessings and overflowing.
Yes.
And
Overflow. I love it.
overflowing.
Overflowing.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so that section, I mean, just to quiet your heart. In some versions it says, don't be anxious, don't fret. And so we know as a clue when we're getting anxious and when we're worrying and we're fretting, that we need to go back and we need to realign with his promises, because he is going to do this stuff for us, you know?
And this is why I love reading a verse in so many translations. Because to me, when I hear the word anxious, I'm like, that's not really me. I'm not a real anxious person.
Yeah.
But when I read quiet your heart, I'm like, oh yeah. I relate to that. Like that, I relate to that. Whereas the other word doesn't, you know what I mean? We've been doing verse mapping in Lillies, where we literally do that. We just pick a verse and just look up all the translations and just map it and just write that down and and be present in that verse for a greater period of time than just reading it, you know, digging in deeper. So I like that. I love all the different translations and the wording that might pop into our God wants for us that particular day or that season.
In that season.
Life verse. As you said, you've come back to this.
Yeah.
And
Over and over.
It's continuously worked in your life, and precious. I love how he does that.
Yes.
Beautiful
Over and over
verse.
again.
Okay. Yes. You may always pray, girl. Pray, pray, pray.
All right.
Yes.
Let's pray.
Thank you,
Father, thank you so much that you care so much for us and that you give us gifts. And sometimes those gifts look like each other. And so, Lord, I just pray that you would bring connection through this message series, through this time of getting your life first. And so, Lord, I just thank you that you've allowed us the platform to be able to do that. And God, I just pray for every person as they're going through Know Your Life First, and maybe you've given people life verses, Lord, that you would awaken those verses and you would speak to hearts. And I feel like some of you maybe would go, I don't know that I have a life verse, and just ask the Lord to release that life verse to you and to bring revelation about that. So God, I just pray that you would awaken that, and that even you would go back as we look back in our lives, that we would be able to testify of your faithfulness and goodness and see where those verses have brought life. And so I just thank you for that. And